All right, welcome everybody to Activu's very first Tech Tuesday webcast. My name's Justin Gross. Been with Activu for a fair number of years, going on just past the 12-year mark here. I'm happy to actually have an opportunity to speak with a lot of you live here and show you some cool tools. And as we continue this program, more and more things, we will try to help you out with the product and make it a little bit more easier for your day-to-day operations. With that said, as we go through this, if you think of anything that you might find more beneficial, something that you would love to see covered, it could be troubleshooting. I mean, think of anything, even if something that we might not offer yet, ideas. Shoot a reply back to any of the invite emails that you got for today's webcast, and we will take all those into consideration for future Tech Tuesday webcasts. With that said, we're about a minute past the start time. I'm going to give it one more minute. I believe we got a couple more people kind of floating into the webcast here, so we just want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to see this. And while we wait for that, to let you know today, we're really going to be focusing on how you organize content on data walls. It's a really important thing for common operational picture, that your control room actually has some cohesiveness in terms of everybody understanding what's where on the video wall at any given time. And I do mention video walls, but it's not necessarily so tied to it. Any of the stuff I'm going to be showing you today can be done on single LCDs, can be done on any of our display device endpoints that we offer in the product. So don't think you're tied up. And last, before we get started as well, I'm dealing in our latest version of Activu, which is 5.4. So any of you running some older versions, 5.3, 5.2, 5.0, you might see some differences in the product in terms of the access point and the software I'm using, but all in all, they could follow together. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you right into our demo room here in Rockaway so that you get to actually see what I'm going to be demonstrating. Okay, so welcome into our New Jersey demo room here at Activu. We are based in Rockaway, New Jersey, if you didn't know that already. And in front of you, we have our demo Mitsubishi video wall, which is a 4x2 high video wall. It's hard to see in the camera, but there's a 4x2 high here, and then a couple of our operator workstations at the bottom. I'm not going to be much interacting with them, mostly to the video wall, and this camera is going to be zoomed in and out throughout the thing here, so you can see it exactly how this is going to work. So again, we're going to deal in organizing your content, and when we talk about organizing, you can kind of treat it in a couple different ways. First is understanding grids. And grids is how you can organize the content. And then from grids, how do you create good layouts and good templates? And I'll explain the difference between layouts and templates as we go through this. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink that camera down a little bit and bring in our access point remote control. So throughout my career here at Activu, I have seen many a video wall laid out exactly as you're seeing here, where you see content not quite filling the areas, overlapped content. And we want to try to make that as solid as possible using all the possible real estate that's been given to us on any given endpoint. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first place is actually understanding grids, and where grids are very, very, very helpful in organizing your content. So grids are found in the little chevron underneath the actions menu. And you're going to start with defining a grid. So to kind of give you some best practices I've used throughout the years here is with a 4x2 display wall like you see here, and to give you an idea what that looks like, I'll show you. There's the 4x2, so you see it right there. Go back to our content. Going to hit the chevron down and do a define grid. So what I always like to do is, and I've seen this again throughout many control rooms, is to quad your displays. Now you're not necessarily have to quad everything. It's just helpful to organize your data. So we're going to go ahead, since we have our, we're going to go to a 4x8 grid setup. So it's hard to see the grid when you have content up, but if you go ahead and slide some of this content over a little bit, let's make it a little smaller. You can see these yellow lines that have appeared inside the remote control here. You can see each display that was one display here is now, I have grid lines to separate it into quads. So what does that allow me to do? Well, now let's start just finishing some of our content within these quads that have set themselves up. And just given the content I have, I'm going to do something a little creative here. Cross gaps, so you can get an idea of how powerful the grids can be. So fit all your grids or all your content within the grids as best you can. You're going to feel a little pull on some of the sources when they get close to the edge. They'll pull on the line a little bit, but getting it all kind of in there just enough, trying not to overlap too much of the lines. This guy's snapped. Let's take care of that. All right, so now you have everything on your wall within some level of border of the grid. You want to head back up. Let's stretch this guy back down a little. Head back up to that chevron, and now you should have another option at the second option there. It's called snap to grid. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and you can watch what happens here on the video wall. So you've noticed now all the content has found their way into the box I've laid it in, and you can see the video wall now is definitely more cohesive in terms of no gaps or overlaps on any of the content that we have up on that wall. So that's the very first part of really organizing your content, is playing with grids. And you can get really creative with grids. So to kind of give you an idea here, I'm going to just clear the view screen up so that we can just have a blank canvas. But you can go very in depth in terms of what you can do with the grid. So if you do something like this, it's pretty aggressive, but it does allow you to do a lot of different options. So let's go back to that setup we have here. And what you can watch is I can actually get these in much different spaces. It's a finer area. So remember, your walls, your desktops are one contiguous big pixel space. You know, so you really take advantage of all the possible real estate you have. So just to give you an idea of what's going to happen now, since we have some more sources with tighter grid lines, we'll get a little overlap, but let's take a look at what happens here. So you can see it's really interesting how the cubes get chopped up. We have some empty space we could fill in, but you can really be kind of aggressive with all of that. Any point in time, if your grid's getting a little out of control or is not the kind of grid you want, simply go up. You can either start by defining a new grid right away, and you'll notice that that'll come back, your old grid's gone, or you can simply clear the grid altogether. Now, one thing also to know about grids is when they're defined by a user, it is only unique to that user at that time, meaning nobody else in the system would see anybody else's grids. All right, so let's keep going here. I'm going to clear that grid, go back to our a little crazier layout we have here, and try to clean this back up again. Because then the next step is, well, what do you do with it? Now I've organized it and I love it. I want to save it. I want to use this over and over again. So let's talk about a layout once we build this back out. So let's go ahead and define that quad again. So again, 4x8 here. And I won't go, just try to get everybody in a nice spot. A little trick there, any of your stuff's behind something, you double click on it, would bring it right to the front there so you can get to some of the controls if it's behind anything. It's kind of the bring to front shortcut, is the double click on your content. All right, I guess we're getting right back to where we were. Let me get these moved in. All right, back up to our snap here. Nope, missed one up there. Let's stretch up in this. All right, so now you got the layout you like your content, the look is good, and you want to save this. So a layout, and how I've always trained on layouts is think of layouts as a preset on the radio in your car. So that you like the station, you want to save it for later use, it's the exact same concept. It's a snapshot in time of the content you have laid out. And it's both the content and the position that it's sitting in. So keep that in mind when it comes to layout. So it's the exact same thing you have up on the wall. So all these same sources will get pulled up within this layout. It's this little floppy disk, the save icon, upper right-hand corner of your virtual wall there that you're going to want to click. And you get the layout dialog. So if you're creating a new layout, you can back out whatever's there and be creative. So we'll just call this our Tech Tuesday webcast, and I'm sure I'm going to do more than one. So let's just start with one. Thing to keep in mind is if you have a lot of groups in your system and you want this layout to be useful to other groups, it's best to give it to all the groups right away, or you can control it by keeping within a group and changing it later. In this case, I'm going to do all groups and allow everybody to do it. Layouts has got a lot more options. I'm not going to cover all of these today, but if it's a single wall, a single tab you're dealing with, you don't really have to touch any of these other checkboxes. You're fine to just click OK here. All right, so confirmation that it's done, and really nothing's changed. But to demonstrate, we're going to go ahead and clear this wall. I'm going to clear that grid, and we're going to find our layout. So we know it's our Tech Tuesday webcast. We got some controls here. I'm going to go ahead and just click load. And what we're going to watch is our content to come right back in the same way I saved it. So again, that same idea that we saved a preset. We love it. We want to get it all the time. There it is. You get an idea. Take a look at the video wall there. Any point in time too, you want to move this stuff around. Say you want to change the grid. The content needs to stay the same. Load your grid back up. Again, a little 4x8. Move your content around and say, oh, well, I don't like my old layout. So updating a layout, super easy as well. Just go ahead and find it. Once you say, oh, I made my changes, find that same one, what's dedicated to the groups. And what you'll see here is it actually says, would you like to update? Click yes. Now, keep in mind, building this out is going to take down a live environment. So if you got to, this is a live exercise that you'll have to ask your operators or the control room if there's anything going on, and you're going to want to say, hey, we need a couple minutes to set up a couple new layouts. That's how you'd go about doing this. Now, there is a way to do offline layout setup. Not going to be covered today, just given the time that we're doing this. Really, the next section here is templates, and that's a big part of it. But of course, like I mentioned at the start of this, if you want more time with layouts, you want to go more into depth with layouts, just throw that out there. We'd be happy to do a little section of a webcast. We could do more about layouts. All right, so let's go ahead and start messing around with templates. So the first part to do with templates is templates are great to build offline. You won't impact the video wall. So the first step in templates is to get into a template mode, and I'll explain templates once I'm in the mode. So your actions button upper left-hand corner, and you'll see this option here called Create Template. And you'll notice we get a different coloration. We have Create Template Mode notification that we're in, and it's offline. So whatever I do is not going to impact actually what's on the video wall. So what are templates? To keep it simple, templates are predefined positions for content on a video wall. The content can change, but the positioning of that content will always be the same. And this will make more sense as we go through this exercise. The first step is to define a grid, because we'd like to lay out something pretty interesting. So I'm going to do a pretty neat grid I've done for a few years here. Usually goes over quite well. So again, it's the 4x8. I'm going to quad my displays when I have a little bit more fun. To add positions, simply double click anywhere in the GUI. So I'm going to double click here and I'm going to get a position. So it says P1. You can ignore the positions for now. They don't mean a lot. It's just kind of a placeholder. You can talk about P1s later, but right now it's just a position called P1. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to create put that one there. I'm going to create another one here, here. And again, try not to overlap or touch the lines too much. You could, it might jump on you. So you want to try to be just a little bit smaller than your grid size. So keep doing this. Double clicking again to inject these positions. I'll do something a little different on this side here. So for anybody on the webcast that's in a traffic management center, security operations, anywhere you might interact with CCTV, IP-based cameras, this is a great way to lay out your cameras. And I'll show you why it's really interesting, especially when you're not quite sure where incidents might occur. But this gives you flexibility of making a small picture or what you might consider a camera that we don't necessarily have to look at all the time, but then maybe something happens, you can bring it into focus a lot faster. So once you, again, it's the same concept we did before for this create template mode. We go back in here and we do the snap to grid. You can see we got everybody nice and clean and we're perfect. So back up to the actions menu. You'll have an option here that says save discard template. So I do want to save this template. And again, we'll call this our Tech Tuesday. T1. Again, that all options for groups. Again, you want all your groups. And click OK. So that's pretty basic. And what'll happen once you click this OK, you'll notice we'll get kicked out of template mode and we'll be right back into normal use mode of the remote control. I'll give it a second here. The only thing that stays behind is the grid, but now we're back in normal mode. So now let's play with templates. So I'm going to go ahead and just take down our video wall here. I'm going to take the grid down. I'm going to start from scratch. Because the one thing you got to know about a template is if you have anything loaded on the video wall and you load a template, it'll conform to it. This will make more sense in a second. So let's go ahead and load our template. Simply click on it, single click on the left-hand side, get an option to load, and click yes. So here you're going to notice all these positions. And again, the numbers don't mean much. They're helpful navigational maybe when you're interacting to say, hey, can you put this source in position 5? But you don't obviously see any representation of that on the video wall here. It's just a blank video wall. It's really only here in the remote control you're going to see that. So let's start adding some content. And again, any content, it doesn't matter. In this case, we're going to just add some of our some high res stuff here. Let me see if I got some nice graphics we can work with. Yep, these will work. All right, so the first part is to drag it. So say I have a critical camera here. I want to look at that all the time. I want to put it in my bigger positions. Simply drag it anywhere inside of this position and let go. And if you want to watch here on the video wall, boom, it shows up right there and it fits perfectly to that position. This is what I talked about. Laying out your content with a template in place doesn't have to, you don't have to sit there and drag and drop. It's going to fit to the way you created that position. So let's go ahead and keep populating all these positions. And again, you can populate any position at any time. You're not restricted to starting with P1 and working through the numbers sequentially. So I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit as I find some more places to put things. Okay, go into our landscapes here. Got some maps. Okay, to kind of give you an idea, so you can see how easy it was. It populated, fit right to it, and you can see the layout there on the video wall. And kind of like this idea of these, where you got some smaller cameras or content, and you got some bigger ones. Because what happens is it's something. Let's say these are all cameras, and let's say it's noticed by the operators that something is actually going on right here in this position. So what we want to do is bring it more into focus. So there's a couple techniques here. Drag it over into any of these bigger positions, and what'll happen is the content that's there will swap. So you'll notice here that we have the lake, and I've taken the field. I'm going to drop the field, and you'll notice the field now takes the place, and the lake moves itself over to that smaller position. So the idea is there now we have the less critical, the camera that now has an incident that was smaller is now bigger. And certainly when that event is over, taking it, and when it's a little bigger, upper left-hand corner is the technique here. You got to make sure the upper left-hand corner is where you want it to land. And we're going to go back to our normal operation, which is our lake here is going to be the bigger picture and the field is going to be the smaller one. And you could keep doing this, drag over here, drag here, swap these two, and it'll just continue to move around. It looks like I lost one. I actually dragged that one off. There it is. Okay. Now, to keep in mind, too, you can't add content that's already there. So let's say I want to move something out of that position. If I go to drag, let's say this MP4 here, you'll notice it says the template is full. You have to remove content in order to occupy the template space again. So if I go here, I can then drag that up. Now, something to remember about a template is that a template is universal to the video wall, meaning every user that's connected to control the video wall will have the template loaded. So they're going to see If we go ahead and let's go ahead and save this. I like this layout. Oh, well, that's a good spin here. So again, we laid this out. We like it. It's a good layout. Why not save it? So we're using a template to build a layout in this case. All right, so go ahead and clear that again, and you'll notice there's the template still there. And any user that's going to connect with remote control is going to see that template loaded. If you don't want a template loaded, you want to take it off, you're going to go back to that actions menu there, and you're going to go to the this is a should it be clear? There it is, clear current template option. I'm going to go ahead and click it, and you're back to just that normal drag and drop GUI that you can again bring the grid back into. But templates are really powerful, and you can have as many templates as you like. But again, it's more of a layout, how you want the wall to look like. The content will always move, but again, it will always have some conformity to this normal operating picture where, okay, this is what I expect. I expect my 3 cameras or 3 pieces of content here and 1 big one, and vice versa over here, and then 2 big ones over there. That's just the layout. So back to layouts, and let me go ahead and bring our last one here, load it back up. Now, if you notice, loading a layout kicks you out of template. That is normal procedure, so you'd have to reload your template to reload a layout. So again, I can go back to my templates, and this is a unique thing you got to pay attention to here. If you load a template there's not a template present, you'll click yes. You get an option to clear the wall. So in some cases, you might want to do it. In this case, I don't. We shouldn't see anything happen. The key here is you're noticing up here next to the actions menu, this little hash sign or pound sign shows up in the V1, indicating that a template is actually present on the video wall. To kind of give you one more idea of what happens if you try to load a template, so we're going to go ahead and clear this view screen. I'm going to clear this template. Let's go to our other layout that we created. It's a different look and feel. And what happens when you try to load a template with content that doesn't necessarily match the template? Click load, we're not going to clear, and then I'm going to click OK. So some of the content has found its way into positions. Now we had some extra content there, so we can take this one down and we can take this one down. And look, our content actually fit itself into what that template was. We had a couple overlaps because, well, the content didn't fit anywhere. So now we're like, oh, wow, I like this look. I've moved my template or my layout into this template. Go back here and let's update that layout. Update, yes. So now we've actually took a existing layout that was already present, dropped our template over the top of it, and allowed the layout to move around inside the template. We fixed it a little bit, and now we have that same layout, but in that same operational picture created by creating an actual template. All right, and some of the extra tools before we finish up, we're going to keep this tight today, right down to about a half hour. We might cut it a little short depending on how we finish up here. Some of the other techniques I've used to manage the actions button. We have this clear view screen call here. Great way to just take everything off. You can notice the template's still present. Little action we did mention today, the use of the layout button over here. And in the actions here, we were doing the create template mode. So again, that's an offline event, meaning if you have your layout loaded, you can do template creation offline. Let's just go ahead and get one of our layouts back up there. So again, go back to the actions menu and create template. That'll put you in the mode. Let's remember that this little chevron here is for our grid. That's the kind of the real thing we've been repeating over and over again is the grid, because the grid works for just basic layout creation or wall, just a wall layout, and then certainly it assists when we build our templates out. All right, get out of this. We'll discard our template. All right, everyone. We do appreciate your time here, and forgive any technical difficulties, or as we get better and better at doing this, we hope to be just a better offering for all our fine customers out there like yourselves. And again, please reply to any of the invitations for today's webcast with any other ideas. I mean, we really only know so much here at Activu. We learn a lot from our customers, but you're the best source of information we have. So please be open about what you'd like to see in the future going forward here. Certainly, just to give you an idea, I think our next one we're working on is kind of an introduction to Access Point, this whole remote control software. You'll get an idea of how to use it. So you got new staff coming on board, or you yourself are new to Activu, we'll get you started with just the basics of Activu Access Point and how it works. All right, all. I do appreciate again you attending today, and we'll look forward to future webcasts going forward. Thank you again.